now like please welcome Mayoral to the stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me this afternoon, and I look forward to this dialogue that we're going to have with you. I think all of us can learn more. I know I can. During this election, I've learned a lot, and I'm still learning. First of all, who's Joe Pantalone? Well, I was born, I'm part of the 50% of the people in Toronto who were not born in Canada. My family was born in Italy, and at the age of 13, my parents were poor farmers, took their 7 kids to Toronto, and here we are. I only spoke 2 words of English when I came to Canada because I've seen them in the movies, yeah and no. And I think we have a very nice city in Toronto, even though like any other city, it's not perfect, far from it, because we're also does it strive to be accommodating to everybody. You know, I am a strong believer in public service, so therefore I'm grateful to teachers, you know, who taught me English, and I'm grateful to the society which allows one to work hard and have the potential to give everything that one has to give. Now, I am of the view, thumbs up.
Just finish yours. You're allowed to finish yours, I think.
Okay, well, I'm of the view that basically that Toronto, no one should be left behind in our city. Doesn't matter who you are, which part of the city you come from, what aspects of your life are affected. And that's been what has led my life as an elected official for over 29 years, and I've experienced, and the last 7 as deputy mayor. So I look forward to the rest of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, I will be asking each candidate a series of set questions, and then we'll open the floor again. So we have already discussed the ODA and the city's obligations to the ODA. Now, above and beyond those requirements, what will you do to create a culture of inclusion within the City of Toronto staff and its agencies, the commissions, and the number of other bodies that we've already discussed? And if you could also provide examples, given that you're a current member of council and the deputy mayor of the city, of ways that you have already done some of this.
Well, the City of Toronto has access, we have policies which exceed the minimum requirements. In terms of my own record, you should know that working with the Schizophrenia Society of Ontario, the late Alberta in particular, I led the fight that led the building of the luminous veil over the Bloor Viaduct. It was a $6 million investment. A lot of people said no, but you know what? The community wanted and needed that, and I think saved a lot of lives, and I supported it. You should also know that I'm chair of Exhibition Place, where we have basically renovated old buildings, constructed new ones, like the BMO Field, for example, where accessibility is one first and foremost. I believe that we got to do more. As for example, as mayor, I want to make sure that people can vote through the internet, because there's no reason why you have to go to the actual polling station, even though this year's polling booths will be more accessible than being historically, which is an improvement. Nevertheless, I believe that people should be able to vote from wherever they're most comfortable. If they want to take the trek to the voting station, they should be able to do so. If they want to, however, do it from their own home or their friend's place, they should be able to do as well. I believe that, as mayor, I want to work closely with our Disability Issues Committee to make sure that we're doing a better job than we are. I mean, at least we're struggling in Toronto with this issue. And by the way, I don't believe in tax cuts or tax freezes, contrary to Mr. Ford, Mr. Smitherman, or Ms. Thompson for that matter, because I believe ultimately you have to have the money to invest. And if you simply freeze your taxes or lower your taxes, there's less money to invest in people. Whether it's priority neighborhoods, where young men are at risk, whether it's seniors, whether it's the disabled community, I think money is important. And if you have less to play with, then there's less you can do. So there's a contradiction in terms of what the others are proposing. They're proposing you can get more with less. We know that that doesn't, anything about mathematics, that doesn't work.
Thank you. Now, obviously, as we mentioned, budget is one of the big issues, and you've just touched upon that in your answer to the last question. Now, how will you ensure that people with disabilities are protected when budgets are developed and implemented? And please give us some examples.
Well, first of all, I'm opposed to any tax cuts or tax freezes, with sole exception of seniors, by the way, because the society is aging, and 5 years from now, actually, there's going to be more seniors than there are children, and 20 years from now, there's going to be, twice the number of seniors as there were 5 years ago. So I think we have to develop an age-friendly society, which also overlaps the issue of disabilities, because as you get older, you're less able to do things. So therefore, I want to make sure that those budgets get protected and enhanced, regardless of what happens, because again, no one should be left behind. And I believe in investing not only in infrastructure, like all of us talk about, like transit, but also investing in people. And that's why, for example, seniors who make less than $50,000 as a household, it's just about everybody makes less, and live in their own home, I want them to make sure they're able to stay in their home, where their quality of life is better by freezing their taxes in the next 4 years. And that way, that is affordable within a budget of $9.2 billion, which is the city's operating budget. I actually want to see whether we can accelerate some of our programs. For example, I want to fund 2 outdoor gyms in 2 parks. This is a concept which is very common in Europe and China, whereby you actually have facilities in parks whereby seniors and others with disability can exercise either individually or with others, and the equipment is designed for that. We don't have any in Toronto. I want to make sure in the first 4 years we have at least 2 of those as a pilot projects to make sure about expanding them. Because again, you got to support people in their homes, you got to support them with the caregivers and social assistance societies, but also you got to be able to have them help themselves.
I'm going to exercise my right to clarify a point for a moment. You've mentioned that you're interested in tax cuts only for seniors because of the income issues that they face. Would you extend that to people with disabilities who do not fall into the category of senior citizens?
Subject to defining that, because as some of the earlier questions said, who's disabled, who's not disabled is often open to interpretation. All of us have stresses in life, and but yes, subject to that definition, yes.
Okay, thank you. People with disabilities, as we said, make up 15% of the population, and that's going to increase, as we said, as the population ages. We have talked about housing, as you just mentioned. Now, what portion of the roof project, what portion of the $21 million will you as mayor make available to ensure accessible, supportive housing for people with physical, developmental, and mental health disabilities, and how will you do this?
I would like to see all of that actually go towards seniors and people with disabilities. And the City of Toronto has done this before, by the way. We have a street homes project, which basically said if you're homeless, living on the street day after day, we basically have social workers who can talk to you as one human being to another, show you that you can get an accommodation, and then you end up getting priority. Because at the end of the day, if you're on the street, you're on the street. So therefore, that has been a very successful program in the last 5 years. Something like 2,800 people have been taken off the street and given regular housing, where they can hang their coat and have a sense of self-respect which comes with having your own accommodation. Actually, the program has been so successful that if you go to New York City and they ask you, what should we be doing to be homeless, they'll tell you, go to Toronto and speak Toronto, because Toronto's got it done properly. In my view, all the funds should go towards people with disabilities as the highest priorities, and seniors, because the population is aging. The exact proportion I really haven't figured out, but you should not be going for regular housing for people who have just an income issue.
Thank you. Now, on to the question about recreation. How will you ensure that Parks, Forestry, and Recreation comes out with a realistic and economically viable plan to make sure people with disabilities have equal access to recreational programs in their local area and don't have to travel long distances to programs or encounter a limited selection of programs that can accommodate their specific needs?
Well, you should be able to do it, first of all, by making the particular facilities accessible to begin with. It isn't always the case. I mean, take Christie Pitts Park, for example, which is not too far from here. There was a ramp from Christie. There's a senior citizens home, and some people who are disabled live there right on Christie, and that ramp was simply too steep. So what we've done is we actually you know, this year is getting done so that the grade will be less steep. And also accessing Christie Pits from the northwest. A few years ago, there were some people wanted to put in steps. And I insisted there be a ramp put in, which is accessible now in order to get access to the swimming pool there and the offices and the ice rink and so forth. I think that I want to develop what's called an accommodation fund, which has got to be a separate fund in which the City of Toronto will have, which agency, boards, commissions, and departments will be able to access. Because in order to accommodate people who have special needs, then basically you have to find the money in some budget. And so happen that every department has a limited amount of funds, and usually they know it's going to cost more, so tend not to do it. If on the other hand it's an accommodation fund, which doesn't cost them anything, then I think they'll be able to access. So I want to establish an accommodation fund to help with that, not only parks, sports, and recreation, but everything else that the City of Toronto does.
Thank you, Mr. Pantalone.